Welcome. This is the second Hoover Education Summit. I'm Macke Raymond, and I am a fellow here at Hoover, and I serve as the program director for the K-12 education research area here at the institution. We're still early enough in the year that New Year's resolutions are still a topic of conversation, and my resolution for this year was to lead with gratitude. So my first thing is to express thanks to all of you for giving your time and your interest and your energy for being here today. I also want to thank Condoleezza Rice for an inspiring conversation last night. I thought the way that she set things up for today was just remarkable, and want to appreciate that. I also want to invite you to take a look around the room. We have amazing firepower here. Not only do we have members of our Education Futures Council and our Practitioners Council, these are leaders from around the country involved in education, but lots of other folks who have leadership roles in the field are here as well. We have philanthropy, we have advocates, we have a number of Stanford's Distinguished Career Institute Fellows who are with us today. And we have a number of folks from Hoover who are spending the day with us, scholars and staff. I want to offer a particular shout out to the events team and the folks from institutional programming who helped over months and months to bring this event to you today. And so I want to express my thanks and appreciation. My role today is as Master of Ceremonies, and when I talk to people who had done this before, it turns out there are two responsibilities that go with the job. The first is to keep the trains running on time, and I want to promise you I will, even though we got started a little late. Wanted to remind you, and for those who are new today, to tell you that we're changing the lineup. We're going to have our lunch speaker speak here in Houck Auditorium, and then move into Blount for the meal. So please keep your seats after the Education Futures Council panel. The other part of the job is to set the frame for the day and to offer essentially the warm-up act for the program that you'll see today. And so I was thinking about how I would do that. And it seemed in this period of transition politically and all of the challenges that we're facing at our time, that we should not forget what are perhaps the three most important words in American governance: we the people. Despite many sources of difference, we share foundational values about ourselves and our importance as members of our society. Dr. Rice spoke last night about the social contract that we have with government and with each other. It's the envy of the world, and it's based on a principle of individual freedom without capricious interference from government. We might not agree exactly on where the balance would be about how much government involvement we want, but the principle that we get to choose that is intact for everyone. And no matter what your demographics or your economic situation, we also share the interest and hope in seeing that our children assume lives of connection and purpose and respect. Universal education is our testament to the belief that all children, not only need but deserve an equal footing in their preparation in life. Whether we deliver on that commitment as best we can is the topic of today's conversation. And I want to kick this off with three questions. There's often a cartoon going on in my head, and one of them is a fun house with all of those distorting mirrors that you can stand in front of. Only this one operates in reverse. And so in my version, no matter how grotesque the figure is standing before the mirror, the reflection is one of normalcy. And I think we would all imagine, we would all agree that the image that we have of our education system is a little bit twisted. I won't hammer on the details about student performance or the ways that we are walking back our commitment to rigorous standards and full preparation for kids, because we all know those details. I don't know that we all, however, keep in mind what I call the happy hour stories that people tell of their nightmare experiences trying to navigate a system to get things done, or the kind of heroism that we hold people in regard for when they manage to succeed, twisting themselves into pretzels and being successful in what they want to try to do within the system. The lengths the families have to go to get their students' needs met, the rise in the kind of frustration and despair that we hear from our educators and administrators. The working conditions that they're talking about aren't just about paint and plumbing. It's about the phenomenal Byzantine world in which they inhabit. And teachers across the country tell us over and over again that it's just so hard. It's not just the classroom situation, it's all the other stuff that makes it so hard. These clues are sitting right here in plain sight. And just as the physical architecture of buildings has an impact on us, the ways of doing public education, I think, exert really strong forces on the results that we see. And yet we continue to hold the thought that if we just keep doing the same thing, somehow we're going to be able to resolve all the problems. That what we see is, in fact, normal. Until now, we've just thought about the structure of our education system as a necessary evil. But I want to advance the idea throughout the day that the current arrangements are neither sacrosanct nor are they just. We need to step outside of our own frames of reference and see the larger picture and consider the huge drag that it exerts on this bedrock commitment that we have made to our children and to our future. And so the first question that I want to ask today is, when do we say, enough, no more? That's the first question. The second point is that we seem to have created a very bizarre duality in our education system. On the one hand, we seem to have increasing tolerance of underperformance in the system. We seem to throw up our hands and say, well, that's just the way it is. For years, I expected that we could actually bring better information forward through the kinds of analysis that we do here at the Hoover Institution, through the lived experience of folks. We have successful models of education throughout our country, in all communities. Some of our most recent work identified things called gap-busting schools that are just extremely successful. And I had thought for years that schools that weren't doing so well would beat a hasty path to the door of those schools and be eager to learn about what they do. Boy, was I dumb. It just doesn't happen. And so what happens is most of these great proof points of success, they stay isolated, and we lose the chance of learning from them. We also lose the chance to leverage the many exceptional educators and administrators, simply because we refuse to acknowledge that real differences exist among them. As a result, we sap the motivation and the inspiration of the better performers by insisting that they be treated the same as everyone else. And one of the things that I think is so exciting about some of the panels that you'll hear today are new thinking about how we can address that. I think when you're resolving problems, that it's really important to actually have the correct questions in front of you. And I'd suggest to you that for decades now, we've been missing some really important questions. And I think when things don't add up, where you see lots and lots of work and somehow we're just not getting it done, that's the moment when you need to question some of our underlying assumptions. And so much of what we have tried to do to improve education in the country today has either fallen apart, or if it's successful, we've had challenges in scaling them. That's what our first panel is going to address today. Why is that the case, and what do we think about that? We also want to introduce a new project today, the Tectonics Project, which is giving us a new ability to use data to understand how it could be that many of these unsuccessful efforts have occurred. And we're excited to share that work with you. And so the second question I want to pose as a framing question is, for an enterprise that's in the business of learning, how is it that we do such a lousy job about learning as a system? How is it that we are not ourselves a learning organization and learning organism? And what can we do to change that? Seeing the evidence pile up about not fulfilling our commitments to a growing number of future citizens, the third question has to be, what should we do instead? It's not an idle exercise. This isn't some icebreaker warm-up question. In fact, it's about as serious a question as we can address. And it really goes to the heart of our shared values and our rights and duties as shareholders in our democracy to ensure that our public education institutions serve us and not the other way around. So what would a new theory of action look like? We'll spend the rest of our day today exploring the ideas of the Education Futures Council report to try to answer that question. I'll wrap my remarks now with a quote from Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, but imagination encircles the world. So I invite you to spend the day with us imagining. It's low risk and it's calorie-free. So with that, thanks again for being here, and let's get underway with our first panel.